Well, hello, and welcome to the Hallway Podcast. I am your host, Berilyn Mangan, and I am so glad you are with us today. The hallway is the space between what was and what will be. It is the place between leaving and entering. And historically, it has been a place that we have been taught to fear and to rush through. We are hoping to change that. We are here to come together, to tell our stories, to share our space, and to find ways to make a home in the hallway for as long as we are here. I'm grateful to share today's episode with you. Let's get started. Well, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Hallway Podcast. I'm Berilyn Mangan.
I'm Aline White.
And as always, we are very glad you are with us today.
Yes.
Today, we are going to start talking about the cared for components. We kind of lay this out in our last episode, and we're going to talk about kind of the foundational components of being cared for when you find yourself in the hallway. And how to navigate those. We talked a little bit in our last episode about why that's important.
Yeah.
So we wanted to start off with kind of we're telling you all about kind of our terminology as we go along.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we want to describe is why we use the term practices instead of habits.
Yes, do tell.
So I grew up in the 80s. Again, said this last time. And so habits feels to me, again, like, Jane Fonda, Snackwells, and the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Absolutely.
Which actually might have been the 90s, but you get the idea.
Right. Yeah.
Habits feels to me like something that, I like the way that you talk about it, that it's been quantified to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's something that could actually be helpful, I think, but then like sort of that'll also sell because people, you can innately tell when something is good for you. And then someone's like, hey, I could make $1 off of that.
Right. And then it feeds into that culture. We've talked about capitalism and when that gets, it just overwhelms the hurry, the capitalism, the
hustle.
Yeah. Be more, do more.
Right. And then it becomes about my value is now dictated on by, me accomplishing this habit versus, no, I'm inherently valuable and worth the time that it takes to practice these things that are nurturing to me and caring for me. So it's crazy how we just jump in this society in day and age. We jump so quickly to sort of the surface level of what will that buy me? What will that make me look like? And what will that prove in, what will that put on my resume? So that I can be valuable on paper to the world rather than I am valuable and I'm worth this time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the other thing I want to note is one of the ways in which I have approached life and work over the last at least decade is the approach of slow and small.
I love that. Yeah.
And it's not going to work the way it's worked for me, for everybody.
Right.
There are people that have different kinds of jobs, different kinds of lives, et cetera. And I get to, we probably should note, like we're talking about people typically in industrialized places.
Yes.
Who are not living in war zones.
Right.
So we understand that this podcast is for a population of people that have some level of privilege.
Yes, absolutely.
That's just the reality.
Right.
And again, our goal is the more we care well for ourselves and really live from the reality, the truth of our worth, then we're going to look at those places where people are not able to do that. And we're going to put our heart and our time and our money into hopefully changing those things that are still just egregious and horrific in the world.
Yeah.
So we hadn't noted that yet.
Yeah. It's very, good to say.
And so sometimes when we talk, you're going to hear us talk in terms of slow and small. If that doesn't work for you as well, I would just encourage you to think about it in a way that's like a component of your life, maybe not the basis like it is for me.
Yeah.
But that slow and small is valuable on its own.
Yeah. Can I comment on that? Can I say something?
Love it.
Slow and small, the concept of it, I think for me has actually so connected to what it looks like to care for yourself in the hallway. because for me, it's been a part of the fight against, I was raised to my nervous system and my limbic system were formed to survive. We all were, but in my particular expression of that, it was, you're not worth the time to take care of yourself sort of thing. And also, if you are worth it, it's just to produce something. It's for production's sake. It's for hustle. It's for these things proving, like we're mentioning. And it's interesting because when you go into the hallway, it's such a liminal space. There's all of your moorings are stripped off. And we've talked about kind of the concept of what this is. But I find that there's not really the tether to sort of produce anymore. Things aren't on track as they were.
Right.
And those things can, if your worth and value isn't already connected to those things, it just really can throw you in the hallway.
Yeah.
And I find that for self-care in particular, for kind of some of these practices that you're talking about, I have to fight against, I have to really retrain myself to say, no, we're just going to we're going to get up and we're going to brush our teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like I am retraining a child, mm-hmm. which I am.
Yeah.
It's me.
The child that was never taught how to do it.
That's right.
Which is that inner child work.
Yeah. And that inner child work for me, it has looked like I can only go slow and small because it's felt like when you have an injury and you're trying to walk again, and you don't go into a full speed. You have to, it's another part of that nurturing that's like, it's okay. Take your time, focus here, and just, get up and go to the bathroom or like drink your water. And it becomes this meditative thing. It's a fight. I have found in like doing my own work and things, I have to fight to say, we're going to slow down. We're going to be here. We're going to do this right in front of us. And I find that now my survival goes more toward, as I retrain myself, goes more toward the slow and small.
Caring for yourself.
That's right. And it's just kind of this making my world small, zooming in and saying, this is where we're going to be. We're going to stay right here, So yeah, I just found that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that.
Yeah. I bet you do. Yeah.
So in our terminology, we're going to talk about slow and small, and we're going to talk about practices because habits feel, again, snake oil society, quantifiable.
Yeah.
And that may really work for some people. I'm not at all saying it shouldn't work for you.
Sure.
Everyone is their own person.
Yes.
And for me, I love the word practices because it's a relationship that I have throughout my life.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, like how it ebbs and flows, how ebbs and flows, how it can be different at 80 than it was at 40.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it's a practice, it's something that I allow to breathe and grow as I breathe and grow.
Yeah, that's right.
So within the cared for components, there are going to be practices that we talk about. And there are probably millions of practices in these components. And everyone is going to be different.
Right.
So we're going to talk to each other. We're going to talk to other people that we interview about what their practices are. And it will grow and continue to be this beautiful living thing as we talk about it.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to note that.
Yeah. I love that.
And now we're going to talk a little bit about mental and physical care, especially in the hallway, what that could look like for you all and what that's looked like for us. Mental and physical care in the hallway is your kind of first stop. You've found yourself in a space that you didn't expect. It's typically difficult. You've left something that maybe you weren't prepared to leave, or you were, but it's still scary. And you're usually a little depleted.
Yeah.
So you find yourself in the hallway and you look at one of us and you say, what do I do? And we're going to look back at you and we're going to say, up your protein.
Yep.
Drink water.
Yep.
Get some sleep.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to start. So just a reminder of mental and physical care. It's about your physical body and brain. All of the components of your physical body and brain, nervous system, organs, ligaments, tendons, fascia, all of it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Emotional care, we're going to talk about next time. Emotional care is probably historically what people have said when they've meant mental health.
Yeah.
But we want to talk about the physical body and brain first.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe important to mention the reason why the physical body and brain is such a foundation is because you do find that it has a great impact on the emotional health. Mm-hmm. Once you've got to get that foundation right. And we tend to just jump into all the hacks ahead of time. Right. To fix ourselves, where and this is me. This is why I say we tend to, because I'm talking about myself. Can we just fix it, And I haven't drank water, for the last 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, why am I just not being able to cope emotionally? Mm-hmm. Well, honey, get some rest.
Yeah.
That's kind of so.
And it's, again, going back to the inner child work, it's almost looking at yourself when you get into the hallway and go, if your kid had had a really long, hard day, and even if you don't have children, a kid you know and love had a really long, hard day, you're going to look at them and you're going to give them something to drink.
Yeah.
And you're going to give them a snack.
Yeah.
And you're either going to put them to bed or you're going to have them take a nap.
Yeah.
And you're going to cuddle them a little bit and speak kindly to them. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that's where you start when you find yourself in the hallway.
That's right. So good.
So when we talk about protein, there's just a lot of research on this that's way above my pay grade. Mm-hmm. But if you want to look at how your body is doing, yes, you need healthy carbs and healthy fats and just food that's fun, all of those wonderful things. And your body needs protein. Mm-hmm. And so figuring out for you, what are the combinations of protein that you enjoy? Mm-hmm. My favorite currently is Greek yogurt with chia seeds, granola, and whatever summer fruit we have.
Yummy.
That's my favorite right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently looking at how to make our own little protein balls with protein powder and oats and all that stuff. So figuring out for you, what are your favorite protein combinations? Yeah. I like to wrap some sort of meat around cheese, put a little mustard on it, and make little teeny tiny wraps.
Okay. Mustard is the best. It is so different in the UK than it is in the US.
Sorry, y'all.
It is so different. But, you can find things. You can hunt and find things. So.
What's one of your favorite protein snacks or protein meals?
Yeah. I'll do the meat and cheese thing if I need to quick grab something as well. What I've been loving is chickpeas, because they're so inexpensive and they're just they've got protein and fiber. And you pop them in the oven on a flat what is it called? A sheet pan?
Yeah.
You put some oil and you actually bake them, and you can put a seasoning on them, and they come out like popcorn a little bit. They're a bit crunchy on the outside and soft inside. Oh, those are so good. So
I am going to try that.
You should.
Because that would be fun for me during sessions when I just need a little something salty.
Yeah. You can put salty, or you can flavor them cinnamon, whatever. Mm-hmm. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So protein, start there. Mm-hmm. One of the medical doctors that I follow on Instagram, her name is Dr. Mary Claire Haver, talks about for women who are of my age,
our age.
You're a little bit younger than I am.
Oh, please. Girl, we're still there. Okay.
Where you're looking at the possibility of perimenopause. You look at your ideal body weight in pounds, you convert it to kilograms, and then you do about 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein for every gram of ideal body weight in kilograms. Mm-hmm. If I have a client that is I cannot do that, we just start with 1. Mm-hmm. So start where you are. Again, slow and small. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So start where you are and ask around. Probably your friends will have protein hacks the way that they're getting protein.
Yeah.
Protein bars for me upset my tummy, I learned. So I try to do things that are a little more whole if I can.
Yeah, same.
My cousin Ann found a really great protein bar. I forget what it's called. I'll ask her and say it next time in the States. But to get it over here on Amazon is an arm and a leg expensive, so I haven't gotten it. Mm-hmm. But there are protein bars you can find that are not hard on your tummy. I just haven't found any.
There's what I put on my yogurt is pumpkin seeds.
Yeah, I have a blend of nuts and seeds that I put on there too.
And they're just so lovely. And I still haven't been able to produce the kind of pumpkin seeds straight out the pumpkin that you can get at the store. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But they're very high in protein for the volume of kind of what they are.
Yeah.
You know, they've got fiber, and then they also have good things for, particularly for women's health. So I love them, and I just sprinkle it on top of kind of whatever I can.
And one of the things I want to note, this would be probably something we would talk about once you've had a little bit of time in the hallway. But the other thing we would be talking about would be fiber, especially if you're a woman in our age range, because it's so important for your microbiome.
Yes.
So that's kind of something you're noting, that you're adding that fiber component with your protein,
Yeah.
which is so good.
Yeah. It's,
So we're going to look at protein, water. Again, we talked about last time, like just notice how much you're peeing. Is that happening for you? I add water, lemon to my water these days. We have a Soda Stream. I realize, yes, I'm out of like, I don't know, a commercial, but we have a Soda Stream, and
they can sponsor you.
Yeah, maybe if we ever get big, we're going to talk to Soda Stream. Here's hoping. But we make our own sparkling water at home, and then I add lemon to it. And for me, that is just like a treat. It makes me happy. So that's part of how I make my water fun. So that tells you something about my life, that I know how to make my water fun.
Make your water fun. That's good. Trademark that. Make your water fun. Anyway, I was just going to add that the lemon, adding something like lemon, I think does make that kind of hydration more bioavailable. Your body absorbs it better. And then obviously benefits of lemon for your liver and things like that. So something that's simple. I think when you get into supplements, sometimes you can get over into the kind of like big time hack thing. It's a little overwhelming, but the whole food option is really good, a good way to start and just care and know that these foods are actually really taking care of your body.
Yeah.
If you give them the chance. So yeah.
Absolutely. So water,
Yes.
movement. No, sorry, water, protein, sleep. Once you have gotten to that point where you're like, okay, I feel like I've got those practices more comfortable for myself. Like they don't feel hard. They feel like they are regular for me now. Then we're going to look at you and we're going to say, all right, let's talk about movement, nervous system grounding techniques, and the possibility of supplementation. So let's go backwards a little bit, because you just mentioned supplementation. One thing that people will talk about a lot is like that if you're taking a lot of supplements, it can just be really expensive urine.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily know what your body needs. So if we were having this conversation and you're like, how do I figure out what supplements to take? If you have it available to you financially to meet with a doc that looks at functional medicine, holistic, whatever that is in your area, that they can look at your blood and they can say, let me look at your B levels, your D levels, how your microbiome is doing, all of those things. Again, things that are way above my pay grade. If you can meet with someone like that, then they look at you and go, this is what your body needs in terms of supplementation, because our food has changed so much.
Yeah.
And so being able to meet with someone like that is such a gift if you can do it.
Yes.
I started meeting with somebody about a decade ago, Dr. Julie Buckley, who changed my life, and I am forever grateful for her.
Hi, Dr. Julie.
And if we can ever get her on here, we're going to do that. I don't know that she does podcasts, but we're going to try. But I think that for me, having someone look at my blood work and go, this is why you feel like so much rubbish all the time, was super helpful. And so I would just encourage you, if you're going to get into the supplementation, meet with someone who this is their field of expertise and say, how do I support what I'm doing for my body? We just need, our bodies need to be supported. Our baseline often needs to be higher than it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So supplementation.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about movement, which would be, for me, my movement that I have felt the most attracted to in this season is walking with a weighted vest on, another Dr. Mary Claire Haver hack, which people in the States tell me is called rucking, maybe?
Oh, really? What?
Rucking.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called.
Interesting.
we don't have that term over here, so I don't know, but
I wonder where that's from.
I enjoy walking with it. She's like, you can do other things like clean the house or run errands. I tried that. That is not for me.
Yeah, I feel like I would just hurt my back.
Yeah. I was like, getting in and out of the car with that thing on is not my friend. So I walk with it on. And then lifting. I started working out with a trainer 2 years ago, and I really enjoy lifting heavy weights now. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel kind of like I'm cool.
Yeah, you definitely are cool.
But that's what it feels like.
It's
how
like much you lifted. I'm like, excuse me.
It does kind of make you feel a little bit like a badass. You're like, I can do anything.
And powerful.
Yeah, that is the great word for it.
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it. And the research behind kind of contracting your muscles and what that does for your brain, and therefore probably just your mental health.
Yeah,
how that is connected is enormous. So
absolutely, and what it does in this age to prevent osteoporosis.
Yeah.
So you're looking at both, benefits for your physical muscles, body, bones, as well as for your physical brain.
Yeah.
So what for you do you feel like in this season, mentally and physically, has been so helpful for you?
Yeah. Going for walks outside is kind of number one, I think, because it's kind of a mental and physical thing at the same time. Now I don't have like references for this research, but I know it's true. So if you would like that information, give us a shout. I'll find it for you and I'll send it.
She really will.
But the movement of your eyes being connected to, if it's to a small space, like if you're just looking at your phone or if you're looking at your computer or even just inside the house, gives a bit more of a heightened awareness sense to the brain and to the nervous system. Like we're not totally at rest.
Sure.
When your scope of vision is really wide and going back and forth, sort of panning, it's more, there is a nervous system message that we're a little bit more at rest. Now, when your scope is like a 360, I can look up at the sky, I can look all around me, it's even more. It's this sort of, what's the word? Evolutionary theory of psychology, of where you're meant to be outside. You get so many benefits from that. But your body is really, because your nervous system is benefiting, your body, your cells are benefiting. And so walking outside, for me, I can't tell you how much I resonate with that when I like sort of discover this information. I'm like, yes, that is why I love being outside, because my nervous system knows this is where we're supposed to be,
Yeah.
And so walking outside because of that, so it's kind of a grounding practice in combination with just a movement,
Can I add to that?
Of course.
So two things, maybe three things about that. The first one is, it's so interesting that you say that, because I was actually saying to my clients when they were here for that retreat that one of the things I've noticed is when I'm driving, how much more peaceful I feel. Because I was saying my perspective gets to be so much wider.
That's right.
Because there's so much fields and stone walls and then the sea.
Yes.
You get to see for so long.
Yeah.
And the pollution is less, so the clarity is crazy.
Yeah.
So I was just talking to them about that, and I didn't know that I can feel that even when I'm driving, that it just kind of calms me.
Yes.
I'll like take a deep breath.
Yes. It is so calming to kind of gaze out into the vastness, when you're looking at the ocean and you're just like, why is this so amazing? I don't know, but it feels right,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's happening physiologically for us as we do that, which is really cool.
And what I will talk to often with clients, what I will say is, if you can get into a place that has trees, birds, water is a bonus, because there's a lot of research about the benefits of being near water.
Yeah.
But if you can get away from industrial noise as much as possible, that is not possible for everyone. But if you can, even if it's a park where it's decreased to the most, having the sounds of nature, the experience of nature, they've had research on what trees emit and how that decreases anxiety.
Yes.
So the sounds of nature, the way your gaze is, the experience of being in nature, also walking is bilateral stimulation.
Yes.
which helps your brain to process what is going on.
That's right.
So walking you want to really do it without listening to anything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. There's the meditative aspect of listening to the bird song and just pulling that in and really thinking about it deeply. And actually, bird song is more likely to happen. So the birds outside in nature aren't going to be out singing where there's kind of construction happening.
Right.
They're afraid of that.
Right.
And, deep in our nervous system, we also know that. And so we hear this bird song and we know it's a safe place. There's no predators.
Right.
This is a happy, safe place.
Exactly.
And it sends this lovely message to our bodies saying we're okay.
So even, let's say this is not something that's available to you readily, even if you find a park or a place that's like a 30-minute drive and you decide like on Saturday, I'm going to take myself or me and a friend or me and my family, whatever, and we're going to just do a walk. For me over here, because we have these spaces so readily available, I like to listen to books right now. I don't have a lot of space when I'm on my own to read. It's usually at night and I'm too tired then. So I do like to listen to books when I'm walking. Yeah. So usually I do half and half. Like I'll just walk and listen and I usually stop and like listen to the birds, watch the stream move, things like that, watch the leaves move. And then I'll keep walking. And sometimes halfway through, I'll put my book in and listen as well. So I'll do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But that experience of movement in a place that you've intentionally chosen has massive benefits for your mental and physical care.
Yeah, really does. Every time I'm like, I am not okay. I need to go for a walk. I come back from the walk and it's not, sometimes I'm a new woman entirely.
Right.
And sometimes it's not necessarily that anything has changed, but I just know that I can cope all that much better. And yeah.
So what's interesting is we're kind of mixing two things together, which is the movement of that is also grounding your nervous system, which is the next thing we want to talk about.
Yes.
So if you want to look up like, all right, let's look at nervous system, how that works with your brain, et cetera. I would encourage you to look up polyvagal theory.
Yes.
A guy named Stephen Porges developed it. The woman that I love so much that's done so much to develop it and make it applicable is Deb Dana. And she has a kind of like a teaching book. I don't know what category to put it in, on Audible, called Befriending Your Nervous System.
Yeah.
Let me look it up. Well, my phone's off. I think it's Befriending Your Nervous System.
Yeah.
And then she has a physical book called Anchored. And she does such a really beautiful job of laying out how you understand your nervous system, how you understand regulation for yourself and co-regulation. So if the little bit that we're going to talk about sounds interesting to you and you really resonate with wanting to be able to ground your nervous system better, I would really encourage you to go and seek out the work of Deb Dana. She kind of feels to me like if you had a really lovely aunt who bakes you cookies but is also extremely brilliant, and like you just want to like sit next to her on the couch, eat a cookie, and like have her teach you. She has the most calming voice ever.
Aww.
So I don't know her personally. I just think she's fantastic.
But you do now because you've heard her talk
Yeah.
to you.
If she ever, I would like fangirl out. Yeah. It would be one of those moments. Like if you meet somebody famous, I'd be like, hi, Deb. Hello.
Love your work.
Exactly.
Shuddering. Can we take a selfie?
I don't like weird out over like Hollywood and music, but give me Deb Dana. There you go.
Totally.
So protein, water, sleep, kind of get those first. And then look at movement, supplementation, and grounding in your nervous system.
Yeah.
What for you right now do you feel like has been like, these are the things nervous system wise that are keeping me grounded right now?
Yeah. Right now for me, so we all know this is one of the most hallway of the hallway times for me. Not only am I in the hallway, I'm floating in the liminal space within the hallway. I don't know.
You're in a hallway, in a hallway, in a hallway.
Yes.
Because to be clear, you are leaving in a week and a half.
Yes.
To fly to the States.
Yes.
And you didn't know you were leaving that soon.
No, we did not.
And y'all don't yet know where you're going.
That's correct.
Or what job you're going to have.
That's right. And my children don't know what home they're going to live in. So, and this is probably for another podcast, but it's, this day and age, we're sort of parenting, and then I'm like, ooh, I'm very triggered by this. Hold that thought, honey, while you're tantruming. I'm going to go reparent myself real quick. Be right back. So we're kind of this generation that is doing a lot of work, on ourselves while trying to kind of move the dial a bit on some of the generational stuff that we've picked up for our kids.
And you're being asked to do that in a season where you have, to use your term from last time, like you don't have any moorings.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my composure at the minute, but don't be fooled, anyone, thinking that I'm keeping any sort of composure like outside of this space. It's it's really hard. But I think what seems to be grounding for me, and the reason I give that context is grounding right now looks a lot different than what it looks like in other times. I mentioned this before, but it is a fight for me. I have to pull myself out of the hurricane and say, stop, sit, and often I have to put myself into a space where I know there will be no interruptions. Most of the time we've got an office. So even though the office isn't like there's some stuff around, I can shut the door and I can know spatially, environmentally that there won't be any more stimuli that's coming in. I need to have the quietness with nothingness.
Sure.
That is really grounding for me. And then I can sort of pay attention to myself. What is going on with me? Mm-hmm. What are my feelings? What are my needs? I can start to sort out some of those things. And if I can't sort them, just pay attention to them, I'll let you speak to kind of all of that stuff more, but I feel really, okay, so I've got the shock, I've got the grief, I've got the anger, I've got the fear, I've got the bargaining, mm-hmm. I've got the sadness. I've got the gratitude. There's some gratitude in there. Oh yeah, there's some beauty. I'm finding that I'm savoring some of this beauty too. And so some of that is shutting myself into these moments where I can ground and observe. But what that moment does for me, even if it is a short moment, is it gives me more availability to myself when I'm out there in the world doing all the stuff and I'm back into the hurricane. Mm-hmm. Now I can kind of carry that with me and be kind to myself, I guess is a good way to put it, when I'm out there.
Mm-hmm. Doing all the things that you're required to do right now.
Yeah.
Like packing up.
Yes. And doing international moves are no joke.
Yeah.
They're just, wow, you're going from one planet to the next, mm-hmm. to be honest. So it's a lot. And so things like that, shutting myself in. I would say the other thing is obviously when I'm outside. For me, there's something about being barefoot. Mm-hmm. And looking at my own toes. And I don't know what that is. I think it goes back to this feeling of freedom that I had as a kid. I loved being barefoot and I love running around. And my mom would always be like, get your shoes on, And I'd be like, as long as I could, I would just try and keep them off. Mm-hmm. And I know there are physical benefits now. Research is like, it's really good for you to be barefoot.
Right.
That's true. And so obviously that makes sense. But for me, it's actually a nervous system regulation thing as mm-hmm. well, where I just like putting my toes in the sand, putting my toes in the grass. Mm-hmm. Even when I am home, there's a signal to me. If I come home and I'm still wearing my shoes around the house, I am not at rest. Mm. I'm not safe until my shoes are off. It's a very strange thing. Sometimes even when people come over or I go to another person's house or things like that, that's this association for me of safety. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. So I would say those are two examples of very simple things for me at this time.
Yeah. One of the things that I loved when you talk about the first one is you go into a room and you decrease stimuli as much as you can. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because we live in a day and age where stimuli is like just all around us all of the time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important to be able to have spaces or to create spaces and practices where you are getting quiet, mm-hmm. noticing what your body is feeling, noticing what your breath is doing, noticing where the tension is in your body,
Yes.
and noticing what you're feeling.
Yeah.
We know that that helps your brain to do that. And it also continues to allow us to be more and more embodied and less disconnected from ourselves.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I would even say, so Saturday morning, you and I went on a walk because we don't know how much time we're going to have, just the two of us before you go.
Yeah.
And being, granted, again, we get it. We live in like this place that's ridiculous, but we got to walk on the coastal path and it was a insanely gorgeous day.
Yeah.
So you have
so beautiful.
the water and the, wheat in the fields with the poppies and the wildflowers and the rocks and the stones. And then we walked to this rock formation called Capely Caves that you can walk to the top of or next to. And it's been there for, I don't know, millions of years.
I picked up some of the sand that the caves have kind of crumbled into. There's like the coloring of the caves, the minerals make it like really like red purple kind of. And I was just obsessed with the color. I was like, look at that beautiful color. And then I noticed the sand that was kind of gathered at the bottom of the caves. It's like pieces of this cave and it's also this color. And I just picked it up and let it be in my fingers. And it was...
And so you're talking about we're talking about the senses of it, like even down to like, I feel like you talk about your fingers and your toes a lot. The like sensation of being present with that for you.
Yeah.
You have such a, I think, detailed way of seeing things. It's my experience of you.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about the vastness of things and the minute detail of things. Being present in nature, the bilateral stimulation of walking, the movement of our muscles, the conversation and the processing, and sometimes quiet.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that co-regulation alongside nature, water, was such a beautiful gift and a way to regulate on Saturday. I felt like the rest of the day was just kind of a bit euphoric.
It was so lovely. Yeah. It was a beautiful time.
So I love that you talk about like so where our senses are connected with nature instead of all the noise that comes at us, that you're talking about regulating your breath, being present with your body, identifying your feelings, which is so good for your brain, which we'll talk more about next time. And then also grounding. A lot of people talk about even when you get off of a plane, if you want to orient to the time zone, one of the best things you can do is get barefoot in the grass.
Yeah.
And so these are just none of that costs you anything. And it may be like if you're married and have children, it may be to your partner, I need 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The 15-minute thing, if I can just, one thing I forgot to say about my experience has been I've had this myth in my mind that like to ground, I need a few hours of nobody needing anything from me. That's just a mom's fantasy,
Right.
But,
if you want to know what moms fantasize about, that's it. that and warm coffee.
Exactly. But the reality is that it really is just a 15-minute thing. And it's shocking. If you can shut everything out for 15 minutes, you can emerge like, whoa, that's transformational.
Yeah. And especially if you're practicing that in little moments throughout the day.
Yes.
I even do it in the car. We don't drive as much over here.
Yeah.
But I'll put nothing on in the car. And for me, I'll pray. Some people meditate. Or just to notice what's around you and to just breathe while you're driving. I talk a lot about the in-between times, like when you're in the shower, when you're using the restroom, when you're in your car, when you're walking from place to place. Like how can you use the in-between times in seasons when you don't have a lot else? How do you use the in-between times to care for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. One trick with that in driving in the car, I try to use that as an in-between time, particularly if I'm driving the kids to school and back. And we do I call it the game, but it's a grounding practice and it brings you kind of back down. I do this for the kids too, because I notice anxieties in them.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, we're going to play this game where we find 5 things we can see, 4 things we can hear, 4 things we can feel. Is that right? I think it goes 5 you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things that you can hear. You go through the 5 senses. You count down and like
2 you can smell.
one you can taste. Yeah. And it's I say, okay, we're going to play the game. Go ahead, you guys tell me. And it's a sensory practice that brings you back into your body.
Yeah.
And the kids, I can tell, it's like I want to teach them this practice from a young age. I want them to learn it and know it. And I can also tell it brings them back into the present, at least for a minute,
So the thing that I would add for me, and I'm not going to talk about it because all the things you're talking about are things that I so resonate with. Mm-hmm. The thing that for me, that silence, nature, movement, all grounding for me.
Yeah.
For me, prayer is a big one.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I'm not going to talk about today, we'll probably do some other episodes about it, but for me is cold water immersion.
Yes.
I did a video on my Instagram if you want to go and look at it. It's 12 minutes long, so sorry, but I really love it. But for me, in this season where there's so much that came at me that I didn't have any choice around.
Yeah.
Cold water immersion has taught my nervous system to regulate in ways that are so consistent and gentle. Yeah. I just think it's increased my vagal tone in ways that are transformational for my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's the dopamine effect and all of that as well. But for my nervous system, cold water immersion has been transformational. And I would just say to you all, if you're like, yeah, Berlin, we don't have the North Sea 5 minutes down our road. I also do my face in cold water in the mornings, my face and hands. You can do your feet in cold water. I am not a person that can do a cold water shower. It's too much for my nervous system. But some people can slip into a cold water bath. So any ways that you can incorporate cold water to aid your nervous system in learning how to regulate, I think that is time that is well spent.
It is, absolutely. I can attest to that. And I haven't had the time and space to do cold water immersion of late with you guys. But just to say, like, this is one of the things that Berlin and I bonded over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were like this group of women sort of stressed out and desperate.
Yeah.
What do we do? And we found this space together of co-regulating in the cold water and putting ourselves into like a challenge situation and breathing through. And that's the big benefit is, for the nervous system, you're in a challenging space where your body's telling you, don't do this.
Right.
But then you're going deeper and you're stopping and you're telling your nervous system, you're actually okay. See, you're okay. And then you breathe through, and the benefits after that are just immense. And another podcast. But
yeah, we will absolutely do more about that.
Yeah.
So here's what we have to say to you as two hallway dwellers. One, me, who is in a season of still the hallway, but a little more settled. Things are not as difficult currently. So I'm still in the hallway, but I would say probably a more maintainable hallway. And you in a really like more bit of a crisis season of the hallway, or what would you say?
Just super duper uncertain.
Yeah.
Trying not to be in crisis mode, but absolutely feels like a crisis, but it also doesn't in a strange way, without like going into
untethered. You use that term. That's probably better.
Yeah.
And so us in that season saying to you, if you find yourself here, whether you've been in the hallway for a while or you've just gotten here and you're like, I don't really know how to care for myself. Alina's saying to you, fight for it.
Yes.
Even if you weren't taught to do it as a kiddo, fight for it.
Yes. You're worth the time.
And for me on this end, saying like those practices over time link together and become a way of being that is beautiful and grounded, and you are worthy of that. And start with water. If you want to make it fun, make it fizzy and put lemon in it. Protein, sleep. And if you're in a season of crisis, I will say it is perfectly well and good for you to talk to your doctor about a short-term solution for helping you sleep if you are not getting sleep. Medication used well and wisely is a good and beautiful thing.
Yes.
So if you are in a season where your whole world got blown up and your precious system is like, I can't sleep, go to your doc and talk to them about that. So water, protein, sleep. And then you're going to move into, once those practices have become linked and become consistent for you, hopefully move to movement, supplementation, and grounding your precious nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other thing that we didn't talk about a lot, because it's a lot for people, so we'll do another one on it, is fueling your body well.
Yes.
Requires a relationship with food.
And with your body.
And with your body that is kind and connected and tender, and no longer willing to make any pledges of allegiance to the Snake Oil Society. So, but that, when you're in the hallway looking at like intuitive eating, beautiful relationship with your body, it's not something you typically have enough margin for. So we just want to look at like, how can you fuel her well in this season? And how can you supplement well the things that your precious body needs?
Yeah.
And then when you have more margin, we'll start talking about, okay, let's look at what you were taught. Let's look at how you feel about food, how you feel about your body, and how you speak to her or him.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Good episode.
It only has taken me 2 decades to get some movement there. So
Same. Oh my goodness.
it takes time.
It does.
So we are so glad that we spent this time with you today.
Yes.
And we are going to move on in our next episode talking about emotional, relational, and a little bit about spiritual care. So we will talk to you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us.